As part of the project setup, if we're not going for a process with progress billing, but going for something more like the scenario with 50% upfront, 50% at completion, then we will need to set up what we call schedule billings. They cannot be templated in any way or form, so you do need to set them up for every single project. You give them a number or code, and you give them a description, upfront payments. You connect them to a task, and this is important. They must be connected to a task because when you post them, the revenue goes on to that task. And so here I could say, do I have something where this makes sense? Well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe there should be a section in the task for the fixed price. That's very much with the structure. They're talking very much about a cost structure, but that would mean that our schedule billing should be then outside of the cost structure, and there should be some task for revenue. I'll just, in this case, put it on lighting, just as an example. And here it says you cannot do that because that is not marked as a fixed price task. So I'll have to select something else. Inspection for approval. Can I do that? Yes, I can do that. And then we can put on an amount and say, if this was a $20,000 project, then 50% we put on here and another one on completion. And that we will put on another task. Let's put it on this one and say there is 10,000 there. So 50% upfront, 50% on completion. We can put on a budget date. So from a budgeting perspective, we expect to get the money at some point in time, which also means we can run the update budget. And so we get this in as part of the revenue budget for this project. We can see the bill to customer that is selected from the project. You can do repetitions. You shouldn't do that. Schedule billings now specify the bill to customer. So we can see there's a bill to customer field on a schedule billing. Having a customer on a schedule billing is nothing new. The new thing is that we explicitly always put in the bill to customer number. So there's no question of who will be billed for this. And this was more to simplify scenarios where there might be one sell to customer, another bill to customer, and even scenarios where you're splitting billing, etc. And it became sometimes a bit unclear who would actually be paying for this schedule billing. Now we're saying there's always a bill to customer on every single scheduled billing, and it's very clear to see who that is without going back and looking at who's a bill to customer on that project. So trying to simplify things. What is now important is when can I invoice these? I could invoice these right now without any limitations because they are just something to be invoiced at some point in time. But if I want to control when they can be invoiced, I should create a milestone. And the milestone must be on the same task as the scheduled billing. And that's why it's important to think about the task structure here. I now put this on 2110. So I should also have a milestone here on my 2110 task. And so I will say milestones. And I will create a milestone here, my milestone number 1. I'll put that on 2110. I expect that to be done on the 30th. And I will say all complete, customer approved. This is my milestone. This now means that I cannot raise an invoice for any scheduled billing which is on task 2110 until this milestone is marked as completed, which goes very well in hand with a process where you have a task structure which is functional or task-based and saying, when we've done this, then we can invoice for that. When we've done this, we can invoice for this. But if going for a cost-based structure, then it's important to have tasks where they can have milestones on, or at least one milestone for the completion to do that, and not put both the upfront and the final payment on the same, because then of course the milestone would also block the posting of the upfront payments. Yes, let's go ahead. It'll say no can do. Milestone 1 is not completed. You cannot post a scheduled billing until the milestone is completed. So somebody, the project manager, probably needs to go into milestone processing and say, yes, how about this project? Are we complete? Yes, we are complete. Done, completed. Now finance can go in and say post and create invoice, and we will raise an invoice. for the completion. What I think is nice about this and talking about this in the context of a project is this is very easy to understand. It's something you can test out. It's something you can move ahead with and say, yes, we now have a project. We have our scheduled billings and we can go ahead and we can try out the process of invoicing, even going in here and saying, yes, we would like to go to billing. We will look at our scheduled billings. And now we have our upfront. Let's say post and create an invoice. And so we got an invoice for this upfront payment, 10,000.